She flew across the world expecting one thing, a kiss, a moment, proof. Instead, she got a step back, a turned cheek, and silence so loud it sucked the air out of the airport. Cameras rolled. Smiles froze, and in 1 second, months of late night calls collapsed in real time. This was not jet lag. This was not nerves. This was the sound of fantasy hitting concrete. Emma stood there holding hope like fragile glass, while Ziad stood stiff, distant, suddenly full of rules nobody heard before. You could see it on her face. Confusion first, then hurt, then something sharper. Because rejection hurts. But rejection after reassurance cuts deeper, and right there, at baggage claim. Everything changed. He said culture. She heard retreat. He said respect. She felt erased. And as viewers, one question hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. If this boundary showed up now, what else was promised off camera? And why did it vanish the moment she arrived? Emma did not meet Ziad in some slow burn, friends first situation. This started fast. One swipe, one message, then another. Suddenly, every day had good morning texts and late night calls. He showed up on screen smiling, confident, saying the kind of things people say when they want to feel chosen. Future wife, serious intentions, plans, timelines. For Emma, those words landed at a moment when her life felt shaky. A past relationship was ending. Doubt was loud. Certainty felt like oxygen. That matters. Because when someone enters your life speaking in full sentences about the future, not hints, not vibes, but promises, your nervous system relaxes. You stop bracing. You start believing. Emma leaned into that certainty hard. She told friends. This was different. She told family he was consistent. Always answered. Always reassuring. Marriage talk did not scare him. It energized him. And viewers bought it too. The edit helped, sure. Soft music. Smiles on video calls. Confessionals full of hope. The show trained us to expect the big airport moment. Tears. Laughter. That deep exhale when online love turns real. We have seen this setup so many times. Long distance, countdown, arrival, romance on cue. What made this feel safer was communication. Emma did not avoid hard topics. She asked about affection. She asked about boundaries. She asked about culture. Not vaguely, directly. She did not want surprises, according to what aired. Ziad reassured her public affection would be fine in moderation. A kiss at the airport was fine. Nothing excessive. Enough to feel welcomed. That reassurance unlocked the plane ticket. That reassurance silenced doubts. That reassurance framed the entire trip. And when reassurance becomes the foundation, the collapse hurts more than silence ever would. Here is the part viewers keep circling back to. Culture did not appear suddenly at the airport. Morocco did not materialize overnight. Religion did not switch on mid-scene. Those factors existed during every call, every promise, every plan. So why did certainty sound so solid online, then so conditional in person? Emma arrived expecting consistency. Ziad arrived enforcing limits. Both thought they were prepared. Only one of them was emotionally exposed when the gap showed itself. And this is where online certainty starts to wobble, because belief travels faster than truth. But truth always waits at the gate. The airport scene did not explode. That is what made it worse. No shedding, no dramatic pull away, just a pause. Where a kiss should live, Emma leaned in with her whole body. Ziad leaned back with his shoulders first. A small movement, a loud message. You could see Emma freeze, then recover, then shrink. She smiled through it. People always do it first. The mind tries to protect itself by pretending nothing happened. Ziad explained himself quickly. Public place, respect, culture. He spoke calmly, almost practiced. Emma listened. Then her face changed. Not anger. Not panic. Recognition. Because this was not about a kiss. This was about the fact that this conversation already happened. On screen, Emma reminded him. She asked before booking. She asked before flying. She asked to avoid this exact moment. Those were the receipts. The timeline did not lie. And once timelines stop lining up, trust starts bleeding out quietly. On the street later, the distance stayed. No hand holding, no easing back in. Emma tried again, this time with words. She asked why he did not warn her. She said she felt embarrassed. She said she felt small. Ziad shifted the frame. He said she misunderstood. He said pressure. He said embarrassment. Notice what he did not say. He did not say sorry for surprising her. He did not say he changed his mind. He did not say he explained poorly. He said she interpreted it wrong. This is where hesitation becomes dangerous. Because when reassurance comes first, hesitation later feels like a trap. The brain registers it as bait and switch, not because boundaries are wrong. Boundaries matter, but because timing matters more. Boundaries revealed after sacrifice feel punitive. Boundaries shared before sacrifice feel respectful. Emma reacted emotionally. Of course she did. She crossed an ocean based on consistency. Her voice cracked. Her body shook. That reaction was not about entitlement. It was about whiplash, when safety turns conditional. The nervous system spirals. Emma was not asking for affection in public. She was asking if the man who spoke with certainty still existed. And right there, hesitation started sounding louder than any argument. Ziad doubled down on culture, again. Emma doubled down on memory, again. Neither moved. One defended values. One defended promises. Viewers split fast. Some saw disrespect. Others saw emotional misdirection. Both reactions exist. Two truths live here. Ziad has a right to boundaries. Emma has a right to informed consent. Those rights collide when communication shifts after arrival. Behavior matters more than intention. On screen, Ziad avoided reassurance when Emma needed clarity. He chose explanation over comfort, control over connection. Emma kept reaching, asking, clarifying. That imbalance matters. The person seeking clarity carries the weight. The person delaying clarity holds power. And power never feels neutral to the person waiting. Then came the pause that said everything. Emma asked if he still saw her as his future wife. He did not answer right away. It was short, almost polite, but silence speaks fluently. In that gap, certainty collapsed. You could see Emma stop leaning forward. Her shoulders dropped. The hope she carried so carefully cracked without noise. That was the moment, not the kiss, not the argument, the pause. Because words build expectations, actions test them. And when actions stall, words lose authority. Emma did not explode. She did something quieter. She started recalibrating. When belief meets resistance, the heart listens. And in that moment, belief stopped trusting the voice that brought her there. The reaction online was immediate and divided. Some viewers felt protective of Ziad. Culture matters. Respect matters. Boundaries matter. They argued that no one is owed physical affection, ever. And that Emma should have adapted instead of reacting. Others felt something colder underneath. Not about culture, but about timing, about why those limits appeared only after the plane landed. Both sides talked past each other because they were arguing different problems. It is true that boundaries are valid. It is also true that boundaries lose trust when they arrive late. The defense of culture makes sense in theory. In practice, it raises questions. Culture does not switch on a baggage claim. Values are not surprise obstacles. They are context. And context only protects people when it is shared early enough to make real choices. That is where the discomfort lies. Emma did not push him in public. She did not demand intimacy. She asked why the agreement changed. She asked why reassurance became restriction. And instead of clarity, she got reframing. Instead of accountability, she got explanation. That difference matters. So here is the question people keep avoiding. What would you do if you crossed an ocean based on one version of the truth and met a revised version in person? Would you quietly adapt, even if it felt like erasing yourself? Or would you question whether the delay was intentional? Because disappointment is one thing, feeling misled is another. And this is where the franchise pattern starts to show itself. Fans have seen this before. Big promises online, softened realities offline. The sudden appearance of rules, families, traditions, or doubts that somehow never came up during months of planning. It is not always malicious. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is avoidance. Sometimes it is the hope that things will sort themselves out once the other person is already invested. But hope without disclosure creates imbalance. One person prepares emotionally, the other preserves flexibility. And when those positions collide, pain looks dramatic even when it is justified. Emma's pain became a mirror for viewers because it felt familiar, not just in long distance relationships, but in everyday life. The job that changes terms after you accept, the partner who shifts expectations after you commit, the conversation that should have happened earlier but did not. This moment was never really about a kiss. It was about informed choice. It was about whether love is allowed to change the rules after someone says yes. And as the comments kept pouring in, one thing became clear. Emma's story was not isolated. It was part of a much larger pattern. The show returns to again and again. Because on this franchise, fantasy rarely breaks loudly. It breaks quietly through pauses, deflections, and rules that arrive just a little too late. Jenny's story began with a different rhythm, but the pattern was eerily familiar. She and Sumit had crossed oceans, yes, but this time the stakes were heavier. Moving in together was not a romantic gamble. It felt practical. Bills, space, legal timelines, visa deadlines. On paper, it looked like progress. In reality, every day became a test of who held power in a relationship that should have been equal. From the first week, Jenny's role started shrinking. Decisions she expected to make together were quietly redirected. Requests for input were met with polite deflection or delayed answers. What felt like partnership became observation. She noticed it immediately. Every small concession stacked up, creating a subtle but unrelenting pressure. Sumit did not wake up one morning and become controlling. He exercised authority under the guise of tradition. He framed his preferences as cultural norms or family expectations, never admitting that some of it was purely convenience or comfort. Jenny followed the rules she thought were shared, while he reshaped them without announcement. And because these changes were slow, each day felt survivable. Each minor restriction could be rationalized. But over weeks, what was once a partnership became a hierarchy. She was expected to defer, wait, and accommodate, all while appearing cheerful on camera. Endurance became the quiet constant. Jenny learned early that arguing rarely changed anything. Speaking up often created tension that left her isolated emotionally. Even as Sumit remained calm and composed, silence became her armor, her strategy for keeping the household functional. But survival carried a price. Every unspoken frustration added weight. Every concession chipped away at dignity. And in a place where words could not fix imbalance, the body and mind absorbed the harm silently. Viewers could see the cracks forming. Social media reactions highlighted how often she deferred to him in small, invisible ways. Decisions about chores, food, even minor routines were subtly dominated. She followed the structure laid out, always careful not to provoke outright confrontation, always trying to preserve harmony. But harmony in this case was not mutual. It was endurance dressed as peace. The tension escalated when family entered the picture. Sumit's authority became a shield for inaction and avoidance. Any complaints Jenny made were reframed as disrespect toward family or culture. She tried to negotiate, explain, reason, and still found herself backed into corners of obligation. Emotional labor rested almost entirely on her, while he maintained control of the narrative and the space. All of this led to a slow burn that viewers could feel. Every small deflection, every delayed response, every subtle withdrawal of affection built toward the inevitable confrontation. The picnic scene became not just a meeting in a public park, but a psychological battlefield where endurance, dignity, and unspoken frustrations would collide. Jenny carried the weight of weeks of invisible compromise, while Sumit carried the power of delayed choice. And the question hung in the air, will he finally take responsibility? Or will Jenny's silence become permanent? The picnic started quietly, deceptively calm, but tension clung to the air. Jenny arrived carrying weeks of unspoken frustrations, each folded neatly into her polite smile. Sumit sat across from her, looking composed, almost casual, but behind that composure was the weight of delayed responsibility, weeks of decisions avoided, of boundaries shifted without discussion, of Jenny bending quietly to keep the peace. Everything was about to collide in this one conversation. When Sumit finally spoke, it was short at first, almost cautious. He acknowledged a few points, defended some, but the words carried the gravity of a man who had waited too long to face accountability. Every sentence revealed how avoidance had built invisible walls between them. What was meant to be clarification landed as confrontation, and every delayed choice turned into unspoken damage. Jenny listened, her jaw tight, her hands clasped, absorbing not just the words, but the months of misalignment that led here. The fallout was immediate. Jenny's eyes betrayed disappointment layered with exhaustion. She tried to respond calmly, but there was no energy left for argument. Every attempt to assert herself felt heavy, restrained by the cumulative weight of compromise. Sumit's late courage had a cost. Saying what should have been said earlier did not erase the quiet erosion of trust, the emotional labor Jenny carried, or the sense of diminished dignity she felt. Behavior mattered more than intention in this moment. Sumit's explanations revealed his patterns. Deflection, delay, rationalization. Each "I was thinking" or "I meant well" highlighted how avoidance had silently reshaped the relationship, leaving Jenny to navigate frustration and uncertainty largely on her own. Silence had been her strategy, endurance her tool, but the confrontation made her realize how much space had been ceded over time. Late courage cannot repair months of deferred accountability. Jenny's body language told the story the words could not. She shifted in her seat, leaned slightly away, a subtle withdrawal that spoke volumes. Her responses were measured, almost minimalist, as if each word had to be rationed emotionally. She was checking out. Mentally, she cataloged every compromise and every moment she had bent herself to preserve calm. This was not defeat, it was recognition. Recognition that in relationships like this, consistent honesty matters more than sporadic apologies or sudden revelations. The scene ended without resolution. Sumit had said what he needed to say, but the balance had permanently shifted. Jenny's energy had moved elsewhere, leaving the relationship's future uncertain. Observers watching at home could feel it. Power had transferred, not through aggression, but through patient endurance and the eventual realization that silence had limits. The confrontation was over, but the consequences of delayed accountability would linger. And Jenny's quiet withdrawal marked the first step toward reclaiming control over her own life. Even if the relationship itself remained unresolved, Jenny's preparation was subtle but undeniable. She did not pack bags or make declarations. She packed herself emotionally. Every decision she had deferred, every expectation she had softened, every compromise she had swallowed, she cataloged quietly, lining them up like evidence. The power that had once seemed held firmly by Sumit started to feel fragile. He had maintained control through delay, through reframing, through waiting her out. But now, Jenny's awareness shifted the balance. Silence no longer signaled compliance, it signaled recalibration. Sumit noticed it immediately. His calm began to fray. Small hesitations in speech, a sharper tone than usual, the occasional defensive posture. Panic is subtle at first, especially when it is about losing influence rather than affection. He had spent weeks letting situations unfold without taking responsibility, assuming endurance would carry them both forward. He had miscalculated. Jenny's patience had boundaries, and he was finally confronted with the reality of those limits. The change was permanent, even if invisible to casual viewers. Love that asks someone to give without dignity corrodes quietly, imperceptibly. Promises that arrive late, inconsistently, or conditionally chip away at trust until it cannot be restored with words alone. Jenny had learned that the relationship's foundation was not aligned with her values, not in practice. The awareness reshaped every interaction, every expectation, every calculation she made moving forward. Sumit could still speak, still explain, still attempt to repair, but the weight of delayed accountability had already altered the dynamic. Jenny's quiet reclamation of self left him in a reactive state, forcing him to confront consequences he had long ignored, and even without shouting or dramatic exits. The balance of power had shifted irreversibly. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, the marriage had changed shape. The couple existed in the same space, but the emotional architecture had shifted. Jenny's withdrawal and Sumit's panic had redrawn the lines of control and expectation. Nothing had been concluded formally, but the trajectory was clear. The story of endurance versus dignity had played out fully, leaving no room for the illusion that love alone could fix misaligned behavior. And in that quiet, heavy realization, the relationship's future had been rewritten without a single word of finality. Both Emma and Jenny faced the same truth in different forms. One crossed an ocean chasing certainty only to find hesitation in its place. The other stayed under one roof, enduring slowly shifting rules until endurance became its own trap. In each story, promises mattered more than words, and actions revealed realities that words alone had obscured. Reassurance without follow-through, patience without reciprocity, all of it collapsed under the weight of unspoken boundaries and delayed accountability. Distance amplifies hope and softens scrutiny. From afar, certainty feels tangible, commitments feel solid, and compromises seem minor. But when proximity arrives, behaviors matter, boundaries revealed late, hesitation framed as respect, and delayed accountability all turn expectation into shock. Both Emma and Jenny experienced this firsthand. One saw fantasy crumble immediately, the other felt the quiet erosion of trust over time. And in each case, the lesson is the same: consistency before sacrifice is everything. Viewers relate because this is not just a reality show story. These dynamics appear in every relationship, in jobs, friendships, family obligations. When someone promises more than they deliver, when reassurance precedes action, the fallout is painful and unavoidable. Paying attention to early patterns, asking the hard questions, and noticing when words and actions misalign can save months, even years, of heartache. And as the screen fades on these two stories, it is clear that fantasy can collapse faster than anyone expects. Next, we turn to another couple whose reality hits even harder, where trust unravels in real time, and promises fail even before the plane lands.